Welcome to the Modise Network. The new development bank has pledged its support to the Chinese authorities to help contain the spread of the coronavirus. The outbreak of the disease has sparked panic around the world, and large parts of China have been placed under quarantine as infection rates escalate. More than 1,000 lives have been lost. Shortly, I'll be talking to Mr. Leslie Maasdorp. He's the Chief Financial Officer of the New Development Bank, otherwise known as the BRICS Bank. He'll be updating us and giving us perspectives on the South African economy in the global context. And we'll conclude the Modise Network with the music legend Brasipo Hotsticks Mabuse paying tribute to the Ladysmith Black Mambazo founder Joseph Shabalala. Well, firstly, let's talk to Leslie Maasdorp, who's joining us from our Cape Town studios, and I'm inviting you to join the network with your comments using the hashtag #TheModise Now, Leslie, welcome back home, and a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you, Tim.
Tell me, what is your impression, your views, your take on how China is managing the coronavirus outbreak?
Both as someone who's a resident in China right now, who have lived in China for the last few years, I mean, I think the government in China at all levels, whether it's a central level or local government and provincial level, really have the capacity for kind of crisis response situations of this nature. I mean, just for a moment, imagine that a population the size of the entire South Africa, which is really what Hebei province comprises of, is currently quarantined, which effectively means people are unable to, leave their cities. They are effectively confined to their homes. The temperatures are checked daily. Thousands and thousands of medical personnel are out on the streets, making sure that people who are infected are taken to dedicated medical facilities. I think even the World Health Organization, as you know, have said very emphatically that they have extreme confidence in the manner in which the Chinese authorities have responded. So essentially, in China right now, it's health above everything else. Obviously, the economy will be heavily affected. People's lives will be heavily affected, as effectively people are not going to work. Supply chains, businesses, I mean, everything right now has come to a standstill.
What has the economic effect of this outbreak been on China itself first and on the BRICS members second?
So firstly, I mean, as you know, China is the second biggest economy in the world, right? It's a $13 trillion economy. China today is much more integrated into the world economy than, let's say, in 2003, where there was the outbreak of another virus, which was commonly known as SARS. So China's obviously learned a great deal over the last sort of 17 years since that last outbreak. But today, the Chinese economy is much more dependent on domestic consumption, which means that the impact domestically is going to be quite severe. The reality, though, is that China has much greater shock absorbers, I would call them, because China, as you know, have one of the largest foreign exchange reserves in the world, something in excess of $3.5 trillion. Just over the last week, for example, and these numbers are staggering, the People's Bank of China announced that they will inject $174 million into the economy. Effectively, they're making cheap credit available for small businesses because, as you know, small businesses live on cash flow, right? If you don't have demand, if people don't come and eat at your restaurant or come and into your store, you're unable to have cash which you need to pay your workers and pay your rent, etc. So what China has now done is put a whole range of measures in place very quickly over the last 2 weeks to ensure that these businesses and that the impact on people is significantly reduced. However, Tim, we should not just see this as the impact on China. There's no question China's first quarter growth is going to be significantly dampened, but the impact on the rest of the world is going to be even greater. China is very integrated with most countries, including ourselves. It's our #1 trading partner. So think of anything we export to China China, Tim. Think of coal, iron ore, chrome, everything that we export, wine, anything. The supply chains, when the stuff hits the ports, is disrupted now, which means that the impact is going to be felt very directly on our shores.
And what does that mean then for the South African economy, at least going by what is happening currently, and the fact that China is our #1 trading partner? So what's likely to happen? And of course, we know the last quarter of last year's numbers are not looking good. So what's likely to happen with the first quarter of this year?
Given that South Africa is already in kind of contraction mode, right? I mean, we have a number of challenges. One of the main contributors to the slowdown in economic growth, for example, is our energy constraint. This will further exacerbate the economic performance over the next couple of quarters. I mean, the impact on South Africa is going to be very direct. If you think about it, many of these companies who have now, let's take the mining houses. I was at the mining in Durban 2 weeks ago, and if you look at the sort of big energy-intensive users, they're all, up in arms about how the cost of electricity has trebled, in some instances quadrupled over the last 8 years or so, which means that they are becoming uncompetitive in certain industrial processes. So we are likely to see significant impacts in the form of potential job losses as firms try to contain the pain. There's going to be pain, Tim. Now it's a question of how do we manage this pain in the short term in the interest of more medium-term benefits. So it's difficult to say what precisely the economic impact will be on South Africa, because we don't know how acute and severe and how long still the epidemic is going to last in China. But it's going to complicate matters and deteriorate the performance of the South African economy will be worse as a result of this virus. No question about that.
And we'll continue our conversation with Leslie Maasdorp after the break. And don't go away.